You know what's so crazy? Most people overcomplicate color grading. They just slap on a LUT, drag on a few sliders, and they wonder why their footage still doesn't look cinematic. The truth is, if you don't nail your exposure and you don't have the correct white balance in production, you're already playing catch up before you even touch the grade. Stay tuned till the very end because I have a bonus tip, which is the true secret on having a vibrant color grade. So before anything, I just want to give you a basic rundown on my setup. I shoot primarily everything you see on this channel with my Sony A7 IV. On my corporate gigs, I tend to use the FX3, but most of the footage that you see on my Instagram, social media, you can follow me at DIMZZL, at DIM0ZZL on TikTok. My Snapchat, all is at the same thing. Most of the footage that you see is from my Sony A7 IV. I also just want to say I'm not a master colorist. There's people far better than me. I'm just doing what works for me, what gets me paid, what's put money in my pocket, and I'm still trying to improve each and every day. I am not a professional colorist, but it gets the job done for sure, in my opinion. It's appealing to my eye, it's visually aesthetic to other people, so as long as I keep on improving and refining my craft, I think I'll be okay. That is literally just a disclaimer. I shoot everything in 422 10-bit. I don't shoot anything in 8-bit. 10-bit has over 1 billion colors. 8-bit has like a few million or something like that. The codec that I use is S4K. I know it's a pretty heavy codec, but that's just what I typically use to get that resolution, all the colors that I need for what I want to produce. I've been seeing a couple other shooters and their settings at different events and spaces, and I just want to go over that quickly in terms of the exposure triangle. I have a video already explaining that thoroughly. I'll put the link in the description below. You can go check that out if you need more clarifications. I usually shoot everything in 4K 30 for social media. Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, they prefer 4K 30 on those platforms, so I shoot everything 4K 30. If I don't know when I'm going to insert slow motion, I shoot everything 4K 60. So that's sporting events, any live action events or gigs, I shoot everything 4K 60, just so I'm able to slow down in post. My shutter is always double my frame rate, so if I'm shooting 4K 30, my shutter speed would be 1/60. If I was shooting 4K 24, it'd be 1/50. When I'm shooting 4K 60, I'll be shooting 1/125. Simple. My aperture, depending on what I want to convey, I have f2.8 lenses. So if I want that blurry background, that bokeh, that real cinematic, smooth, buttery look, I'll go 2.8. But for basketball, I stay around f4 to f5.6 just due to the fact that I want more things in focus. Aperture is always changing. My ISO, this really depends on your camera, but I have two native ISOs. My two native ISOs are 800 or 3200. I really try my best to stay on those two ISOs alone. If I have to go up, if it's a dark gym or a dark space and I don't have my lights or anything like that, then I'll raise my ISO, but I try to always stay with the two dual native ISOs. When I'm shooting outside, I always have an ND filter with me just so I'm able to convey different messages and have lower f-stops. So without a ND filter, I won't be able to achieve those looks. It's not possible without it. ND filters are like sunglasses for your lenses. It's just able to block out the light while still keeping a low f-stop. I shoot everything in log, so I overexpose my footage. I try to keep my metering around plus 1.0 or plus 1.3, but you really need to learn the sweet spot of your own camera and just understand the color science because every brand has a different color science. I really love Sony's color science when it comes to video. However, I also love Canon's color science when it comes to photo. Once you get the reps, your eye becomes more trained to the little details and the little pixels and the different colors that come out of each camera. So with experience, you're able to tell what you like and don't like. The very first component, and I don't know why this is not spoken about enough, when people are talking about color grading, when I see all these videos and I watch all these tutorials on YouTube, people don't speak about this enough, and I'm going to tell you right here and right now, white balance is everything. If you don't have the correct white balance for every shot of every location that you're in, it makes your job so much harder in post. I don't know why people don't speak about this enough. I also see a lot of shooters shoot with auto white balance, and yes, the cameras are great, the autofocus is great. There's so many things that are great auto about these cameras nowadays. Yes, it's 2025, technology is super advanced, but the cameras are still not perfect. You still need to put in some paint, bro. You need to manually set your white balance for each location. If you are in two different rooms, the white balances are likely not going to be the same. You need to set the white balance according for every room that you go in. lightings are different, and honestly, it's even better if you just choose a white. You can even have it wrong. You can adjust on sliders in post and have it correct for all the shots within that room. When you have auto white balance, the white balance is constantly changing because of little flickers of light, and it's just too much to do in post. You have to manually keep on changing each shot rather than adjusting all the shots within one sequence or one scene. Once I'm done building my camera, the very first thing that I do is dial in my settings and figure out my white balance. If I know I'm going to be in 2 or 3 different rooms, I go to the 2 or 3 different rooms and I lock in my balance with a white card. Or you can also use the gray cap for Sony users. The gray cap can also be used as a gray card and you can lock in your white balance like that. I just use the back of one of my business cards because on the back it's just pure white, and that's how I lock in my white balance within the settings. You can also just use anything that's supposed to be pure white that's within the room. So if the whiteboard is white or somebody's t-shirt is white, you can go put the focus on the t-shirt and lock in your white balance. It will find the correct white balance because that's supposed to be a true white. That's just how it works. It takes 2 seconds. I usually write down in my phone whatever the accurate white balances are for each room. When I go outside, the first thing that I do is just make sure my white balance is at 5600 because that's a natural daylight. It might be tedious to do, but I rather do it in production rather than in post-production because it adds so much unnecessary time to things when there's no need for that. Why am I manually changing the white balance when I could have just done it in production and I don't have to worry about that later? You know what I mean? So that's the biggest thing. It accelerates your workflow having the correct white balance also, you probably wonder why your skin tones and the skin looks all deranged and people look like aliens, or they look too warm, or they look too blue, they look too cool. It's because you don't have the correct white balance. It's not your color grading. You just don't have the correct white balance. Just get the correct white balance that looks natural to the eye, and I promise you everything will be honky-dory. Next is exposure. I don't know why people don't expose for highlights. I literally always do, especially when I'm outside. If I look at your video and the sky is completely white and blown out, that's the quickest way to tell me that it's not a professional video. It looks so unprofessional when people do that, and it just shows that you're an amateur. It looks cheap. You look amateurish. Just expose for the highlights, please. That makes me think. Let me know in the comments if you want me to drop a video on the top 5 biggest mistakes that videographers make that make them look cheap. Honestly, having blown out highlights, blown out skies is definitely one of them. It's in the top 5, hands down. Understanding the sweet spot of your camera because every model and brand is a little different. Plus 1.0 in the metering is the sweet spot for my camera, the Sony A7 IV. However, lighting is just as important. It doesn't matter how good your camera is if you don't have any light that hits the sensor and you don't know how to manipulate it too. Honestly, lighting in itself deserves a whole complete video. It's so important. I'm still trying to get better at different lighting techniques and adding different nuances and critiques to add to the mood of my videos. So I'm still learning that as well. But it's just such a big imperative factor. To retain all that dynamic range that your camera has, just make sure you're using your exposure triangle correctly. If you have blown out highlights, of course, yes, you can bring things back, but you are losing some detail. So don't let your highlights get completely blown out. Yes, I know things can be adjusted when they're under or overexposed, but you retain the most information and data to your camera sensor and in post if you just expose correctly. I am not a guy that says he's gonna fix it and edit it in post. I'm doing it right here, right now. If I noticed it right here, right now, I'm doing it right here, right now. So with doing this and exposing correctly in production, you're accelerating your workflow. And turnaround time is very big to clients. So if you're just taking less time in post, if you're turning around your work quicker, your clients are going to be happier. You're going to be putting more money into your pockets faster. They're going to be saying to other people and giving you referrals that, yeah, this guy works so quick. He got it done in XYZ. Accelerating your workflow and becoming efficient and organized with any of your crafts, doesn't matter the business, is a huge plus to a client. So let's talk a little bit more about workflow. Rec. 709 versus LUTs. Traditionally, you take your log footage. I shoot everything in log, PP8 on my picture profile for my Sony. Traditionally, you take your log footage, you insert it into your editing software of choice, and you add a Rec. 709 conversion LUT so it gets it back to its normal colors. So it gets it back from the dull, washed out colors from log to the regular colors of Rec. 709. And then you're supposed to add a LUT on top of that. But again, I feel like that is just unnecessary. Why am I going from washed to normal to mod? I want it to go from washed to super stout, super saucy. Why does there need to be a medium between good to bad? I want it to just one and done. So if I've created a one and done LUT, it's not ready to drop yet. My website's under construction. If you want a little free trial of my one and done LUT, you see in people like all the colors in my videos, message me in the DMs at DIMZZL, or just drop it in the comments. I may be able to DM you or reach out to you, whatever the case may be, and you could try it out and let me know. I do not rock with Rec 709 conversion LUTs. I feel like it's a waste of time. It's an added step for no reason. I don't think it's necessary. Maybe 5-10 years ago, before I even joined this videography and filmmaking space, it was necessary, but now in today's day and age, 2025, I really don't believe it's necessary. I've bypassed that. The LUTs that I've used in the past bypassed it. I have had LUTs in the past that needed the Rec 709 LUTs, but I just think it's tedious for no reason. So that's just my opinion. Might be a hot take, might not be. You let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. I'd love to know your opinions in the comments. So the next component would be cohesion with LUTs. I like to use one LUT across the whole video. Don't like mixing and matching unless I'm trying to convey like a throwback or something futuristic. As long as it goes with the storytelling, I might add something else, but storytelling is king. That's the most important component of any video. So I like to make sure everything is cohesive. And how I do that is by adding an adjustment layer on the top of my footage. I see a lot of people adding LUTs on their actual clips. I would not suggest doing that. I would suggest adding a LUT on top of your adjustment layer that is for each scene. So if your first scene was in room A and then you're going to room B, I'd add the LUTs for each place, and if there's different white balances, obviously you'd be changing that and adjusting accordingly. Personally, I like my colors with a strong contrast and some saturation and a lot of shadows. I like my shadows because they add a lot of depth within the frame, but I'm also careful to not clip the blacks or even clip the whites. I make sure it's all intact. So for my TLC on my adjustments, I typically lower highlights, lower shadows, raise contrast, raise saturation, and whatever, if I need little exposure adjustments or things of that nature from certain clips, just due to lighting factors or whatever the case may be, then I add it then there too. I'm not super big on using all those false colors and things of that nature because I like to dial in my white balance prior to, but tools like the vector scope and histogram help me to stay balanced. The vector scope has a great guideline for skin tones. I use it all the time. You should too. However, if you don't nail the white balance in camera during production, it all falls apart. That's why I'm really trying to hammer home that you have to nail it in camera. So if you stayed to the very end of this video, you made it to the secret tip on really how to get your vibrant color grading done, and that is accentuating colors. I love pulling individual colors out within a frame to make the shot pop. Say this shirt, for instance, I would just take the green on a hue/saturation curve or on the color wheel and just use the dot, place it on the color, and drag the color up. So that is my entire color grading workflow in 2025. Simple, repeatable, cinematic. Remember, make sure you nail your white balance in camera so you don't have to adjust nothing in post, and make sure you're exposing correctly so you can get the most dynamic range out of your camera. Do the early work so you do not have to do it later. Accelerate your workflow so you can have quicker turnaround times. It's not rocket science. Once you do all those things, it's just about refining the minor details and just keeping it consistent. If you found some value to this video and it helped you out, drop a like, comment, and smash that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. And if you want me to make a video more about lighting, or if you want me to make a video on the 5 biggest mistakes that make all your footage look like an amateur, let me know. Again, I'm just gonna reiterate it one more time. If you wanna use my one and done LUT in the beta stages of, before I even charge anybody anything, it's free of cost. Shoot me a DM, give me a comment with your IG name. I'll message you and I'll hand it to you. Give it in your email, whatever the case may be. So just let me know if you wanna try it out, if you really do like my LUTs. Until next time, peace and blessing. I'm out.